kahamba nayo yajenza bakewone
Good morning and Sanbonani, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what is the broadcast, the second and final broadcast of the MTN Bushfire Bring Your Fire live dialogues for the year 2026. I'd like to give a special welcome to the live audience that is joining us today here at House on Fire, and of course those who are joining us online and on Eswatini TV. Today we are gathered here for our second dialogue, which is centered around an important and timely conversation, Sia, under the theme Beyond Access, where we're rethinking health equity in Eswatini.
Absolutely, Bello. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed our pleasure to welcome you right here. My name is Sia Dlamini, and as mentioned, it is truly an honor to guide this meaningful discussion as part of the hashtag Bring Your Fire movement. Now, as you may have it, this is an initiative brought to you by MTN Bushfire to encourage young people and communities to use their passion, energy, and voices to create positive social change.
Indeed, Sia. Today's dialogue will definitely be an insightful one, just as yesterday, where we're speaking, on sustainability. Today's topic is also a pertinent one because we're focusing on healthcare access, HIV prevention rather, mental health, sexual and reproductive health rights, and community well-being. These are all critical issues that will help in shaping the future or the young people of Eswatini and of course the communities in and around Eswatini.
Absolutely, Bello. And with that, it is now my absolute pleasure to hand it over to our moderator, Mncedisi Dlamini from Young Heroes. He will be guiding us through what promises to be an insightful and impactful conversation. Over to you, Kwala Kwala.
Thank you so much. And good morning. Good morning to our viewers at home. Good morning to our live audience, and good morning, panelists. My name is Mncedisi Dlamini. I'm a communication specialist at Young Heroes, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful discussion. I'll start over from my far right, and let's just introduce ourselves.
Thank you so much, Nkosi, and good morning to the viewers online. Good morning to our audience present here. Morning to fellow panelists. My name is Tulani Mtetwa. I am from AIDS Healthcare Foundation. I'm the Prevention Program and Advocacy Manager there. AHF Eswatini basically focuses on providing HIV care and treatment, and we are currently taking care of over 39,000 of Emaswati that are receiving care from us. We also provide HIV prevention services, HIV testing services, as well as many other healthcare services, including TB, STI, screening and treatment. And we also have advocacy as part of our component, and perhaps that's the reason why I'm here this morning, and it's such an honor.
Great, thank you.
An extension of greeting to the audience at home, and also to my fellow panelists and our stakeholders. My name is Jennifer Gama. I come from the Helping Hand Foundation. I am head of strategic operations. What we are mainly passionate about is ending period poverty in the country. So we advocate for the vulnerable in the community at large, in every area in the country. And our focus is to bringing about aid to anyone who needs it, especially the girl child. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Wanda Shawa. I'm a medical director at the Law Commission. And the Law Commission is an Equicare partner, and we work in providing healthcare access to every Emaswati.
A very good morning to everyone. My name is Zenani Dlamini. I'm from the United Nations Population Fund, which is UNFPA, and that is the UN Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency. Now, UNFPA's mandate is to ensure that we deliver a world where every pregnancy is wanted, every childbirth is safe, and every young person's potential is fulfilled. I'm so excited to be here and to be part of this conversation this morning.
Thank you so much. Now, when you're thinking about find out what exactly that means. We want to think, when we're talking about equity in general, what are we talking about? When we talk about equity in the context of healthcare, what is it that we're talking about this? So I'll just hand over to you, Tej.
Thank you so much, Ngozi. It's an interesting topic indeed. I think it's imperative that we begin by, sort of highlighting what we mean by equity. And just to say that equity generally focuses on ensuring that everyone receives healthcare services. This is despite your age, your gender, your social status, your disability status, your income status. So in the context of Eswatini, I believe Ngozi and fellow panelists, it basically focuses on ensuring that even those people in our rural areas, we may or may not be aware that 75% of Eswatini live in rural areas. So when we speak of equity, we are basically saying, let us ensure that no matter the remote place you are in, you have access to healthcare services. In extension, I think I could also speak about how it also involves ensuring that youth-friendly services are available for our youth population. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was getting worried that you might be missing out on the youth to actually mention that the youth is also a part of those people interested in getting equal access to health. But we don't stop there. So I'll shift on to UNFPA and just ask you, what do you think health access in terms of equity is?
Thank you, Mngqedisi. Thank you, Mngqedisi. I think for me, to add on what Thulani has mentioned, when we speak of equity, there's two things that come to mind. Firstly, we cannot speak about health equity without addressing the issue of economic justice. Health equity is also economic justice because when people cannot afford their basic needs like transport, like food, like digital divide, for example, that has a huge impact in their access to healthcare services. So poverty becomes a big issue that we bring into the table. And we cannot look at health without looking at it in the multi-sectoral, as a multi-sectoral issue, because we cannot speak about health outside of education, outside of social protection, outside of gender equality and economic empowerment. So looking at it as a separate issue from all the bigger development issues will then create a problem for us. So when we speak about health equity, we speak about economic justice. Number two, we cannot speak about health equity without speaking about data, because the data is what shows us who needs help where. So there's a need for us to then also speak about the importance of the desegregation of data, the data collection, the accuracy of our data as well, because it's what shows us who needs help where, and we're then able to design interventions that are specific to the needs in those communities, because like we know, people in Lubombo cannot have the same needs as people in Shiselweni, for example. So equity for me speaks about those two things.
Right. Thank you. Doc, I just wanted to get a perspective from you. We understand that there is interventions on the ground. There are so many organizations. There's a lot of help reaching people out there, but there continues to be gaps. Paint for us what is happening in terms of access, in terms of equity, and in terms of what's happening. Why do we still have some of these gaps?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I think I will just add on to what my fellow panelists have been highlighting to say this is a multi-sectoral issue. It doesn't just look at healthcare. So in terms of equity, it's not just whether a clinic exists in your street. It's whether you can actually afford to get to that clinic. When you get to that clinic, are you treated with dignity? Then it also goes further than that. It also makes sure that you have the medication that you need once you have been treated. And also the system has to be designed with the youth, the old, the poor, the rich in mind as well. And some of the gaps that are there I think I can just throw a little bit of statistics to you. At the moment, in terms of universal health coverage, which is something that every country is thriving to, is in Eswatini, our universal health coverage index is around 58%. And like what my colleagues highlighted, most of our population is in the rural areas. So those are some of the disparities that we need to address to say, okay, the ones that are in rural areas, are they able to access facilities nearby? They are not supposed to be walking 3 or more than 10 kilometers to get to a health facility. So those are some of the gaps that we are facing at the moment.
Thank you, Doc. I want to shift over to you, Jennifer. You've also been in the space, and you definitely have your own observations in terms of what gaps are existing out there. What are those that you'd like to highlight that you see?
Thank you, Nkosi. To add from what my panelists have also highlighted on, one thing I have noted also as helping hand whilst we do our work is that most people have no knowledge of the help that is out there. In as much as there's excess, and our government has done their best to ensure that there are more solutions to ensure that people in the outskirts have more access to clinics, because it's unrealistic to always have to stress about having to go to the capital city for help, for instance. So it helps to have knowledge of the help that you have at hand, which is why even these discussions are very important, because now one person that is here will now share with their fellow friends, their fellow relatives, and it will spread wide. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now, I just wanted to talk about, our audience. We've got a lot of young people in our audience, and probably they'd want to know a bit of the history on how the HIV response has come about. What are the learnings that, and I'll pose this question directly to you, AHF. I want to understand what the learnings are that you've seen through the years of delivering the services that you mentioned when you were introducing yourself. So please also say and mention to us what are the things that you've been doing that you would say are giving positive results.
Thank you, Nkosi. It's quite a mouthful, but interestingly, that is why we are here, to provide some perspective. HIV care in Eswatini comes a very, very, very long way. I think for those who may not be aware, we come from an era where there was a high mortality rate. AIDS-related illnesses were quite vast. We come from an era where we had children born of HIV. But it's interesting, Nkosi, that over the years, through government efforts, through development partners, including ourselves here, we have managed to cover a lot of ground. Today, we speak of less than 1% of young people or infants born of HIV. We come from, I think at some point in 2012, it was around 15%. Today, we speak of quite a number of interventions that government and development partners and partners on the ground that have implemented. Access to HIV care, for instance, is free countrywide. Back then, we know that treatment was very expensive and it was not accessible for a bigger part of the population. But today we are excited that, through the development of policies, decentralization, that also allowed expansion of services to rural areas. We've seen establishment of clinics in rural areas over the years. And I think, as Doc said, it's also important that we are able to access those services, despite of where we are geographically. There's quite a number of things, Nkosi, that I can mention, but we come from an era where we would wake up early in the morning to go and offer testing services in deep tanks, trying to do some targeted service provision. We visited plantations, deep rural areas to try and offer HIV care and services. I also want to touch a bit on one of the glaring issues being offering information and knowledge. Today we are speaking of programs on social media, and we are here, aren't we, trying to also disseminate information. Lack of information and knowledge was one of the biggest drivers of HIV in the kingdom. And we're excited today because we have so many platforms that have been established to ensure that, everyone receives information, especially young people that live in Eswatini.
Thank you so much. So you touched on the issue of information. I just want to take you to the current scenario on what is going on in terms of sharing information to our audiences, particularly young people. Just on information alone, what would you say is appearing as a bottleneck right now? The general feel is that there is some fatigue around sharing HIV-specific information. Or how are you going about addressing those specific barriers?
Thank you so much, guys. I think for me, really, it's about understanding the environment within which we are operating as government and as related partners. It's a known fact that a majority of our population, especially young people, is in rural areas. I think about 56% of Eswatini's population is young people. Now, with all these nice interventions that we have set up, are the people in rural areas benefiting from that? Is our approach targeted? For me, that still remains a gap. And we have a wide range of people that exist in Eswatini. Are we doing enough for people living with disabilities? When we produce IEC materials, your pamphlets and the like, are they on Braille? For that specialized group. So decentralized service provision is key. Understanding the environment. I feel for now we are concentrated in urban, peri-urban. You spoke of fatigue, Nkosi. I beg to differ a bit. We've seen so many innovative strategies. Today we are speaking of TikTok videos, all centered around health service provision, ensuring that we advance, information dissemination to especially young people, because currently they are the most vulnerable, especially adolescent girls and young women. We speak of, we are here, we are at Bushfire. We will be here even during the festival as AIDS Healthcare Foundation, as the partners that are present here. Those are platforms that we're leveraging on to ensure that information is shared, services are taken closer to the people. There's quite a number that's happening, but my greater concern remains on understanding where most of our young people or where most of the vulnerable population exists. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Mteto, about that. Luckily, our audience is young people. They will get to tell us their perspectives on how they are getting information as well later on with our conversation. I want to shift to you, Zenani. And my reason is that we are already speaking about how young people perceive things. I want to find out what you have noticed on your end that it's being mentioned, or what you have looked at with the trends and you're finding out is a problem when it comes to accessing sexual reproductive health services from young people particularly.
I think when we speak about young people accessing SRHR services, one of the biggest things that we've seen or that come out from young people is the issue of stigma. I think a lot of young people still express that they feel the stigma when they go to access HRHR services, because now the notion is that I'm already sleeping around. So then there's that issue when you go to the clinic or to the health services and all of those other places. And secondly, the issue of misinformation as well is still there, because you find that I think recently the Ministry of Health did an analysis of it's called the National Adolescent and Youth-Friendly Health Services Standard Assessment, to sort of see how the country is doing, because the country has aligned itself to certain standards when it comes to access of adolescents to youth-friendly health services. And one of the things that came out there was that there's still misinformation around SRHR from young people. Some of them still say they get information from their friends. A few get information maybe from their mothers or their guardians, and a lot of it is then from either social media or the internet or whatever. So there's a lot of information that goes around about SRHR. People are not able to go to the health facility to ask, if I want to prevent, for example, what are my options? There's the pill, there's the injection, there's all of those things, because the notion is that once I go and ask, then the assumption is that I'm already doing something, So the issue of stigma is a big one. And although we have been working a lot with the government and supporting them to sort of capacitate our healthcare workers on offering youth-friendly health services, and also preparing our healthcare centers to ensure that they are youth-friendly. And I think I can safely say a lot of work has been done there, and we've covered so much ground. However, obviously there's still gaps that exist, because healthcare workers, they change. So then you need to be recapacitating them and making them able to remove the stigma, because when people come to work, they bring themselves, right? So people can bring their own beliefs around what people should do, and that affects how the service is then received from the receiver of the service, the young person in this case. So I think a lot of work has been done in making our healthcare youth-friendly or youth-safe. However, we still are seeing a lot of gaps. But like I said, stigma is a big one. Misinformation is a big one as well as the availability of the products when you get to the healthcare center. The stockouts are also a big thing, because if you want an injection and they don't have, then there's only condoms, for example. So those are issues that we are seeing happening in our health services.
I'll just make a quick follow-up on that one. Now that at the end you're mentioning condoms and stockouts, so I heard, the young people will correct me here, but so I heard that we, as a main system of healthcare provision, we're not alone when it comes to SRH provision of commodities. There are some alternatives that they go for in the form of getting some, should I say morning after pills at institutions like, I'm really trying not to say it, but these could be pharmacies that aren't really, in the main line of healthcare provision. So how much of that is a problem that you have observed, and what can you say regarding to this morning after pills from a certain country?
Ngoti is trying to make me say things. I'll respond to that question in bringing it back to what I said earlier on. We cannot speak about health outside of the other development issues that we are facing as a nation. And like I said, poverty is one of them. And I think as a country, we are faced with so many other issues that are as a result of poverty. And now we are trying to address those issues while not addressing the root of it. And one of those things that have come as a result of poverty is corruption. And corruption also has an impact on a lot of the other initiatives that we are working towards in the development space, not just in health, but in other areas as well. And I think that then speaks to this whole issue of the many pharmacists or the many things that are now happening in what I'll call the black market. Because Doc here highlighted that equity doesn't just speak about having access to the healthcare facility or the healthcare service, but it means when you get there, you do get a dignified service, you do get the services that you need, the medication and all of that. And we've seen in the news and everywhere how we've been struggling a lot with people going to our healthcare facilities and not getting the medication and not doing that. And now the issues that have been happening at the central medical stores and all of that. And I think all of those issues then come as a result of what I mentioned, the poverty. So when we look at how all of the issues that we address, the development issues that we have, that they are interconnected, that multi-sectoral approach or multi-sectoral eye will allow us to address the root causes of issues and not just the fruit, if I can say, thereof. Because now when we speak about, for example, if you're saying, let's close down the black market pharmacies, let's do this, let's do that, it still doesn't speak to the root of it, which is the corruption, which is the poverty, which is all of that. So, yeah, I think that's how I can respond to that.
Okay. Fair enough. Doc, maybe let's change a bit. We looked at HIV, we looked at SRH issues, but maybe I'll direct this both to you and Jennifer. I'd like us to talk a little bit about mental health. You know, we have an opportunity here to engage young people, and it's a growing concern about many things that are happening in their individual lives. University pressure and things like that are coming up. What are your observations in that space? What's happening around mental health, and what can you speak to it in terms of it? And don't forget, we also want to tackle the issue of we are rethinking health access and rethinking equity.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for the question. I think it is important to mention that as a practitioner, we do see patients that are presenting with mental health issues. So it is a crisis, it is an issue that we need to acknowledge that it's there. I think it is also important to mention that it is difficult to separate physical health from mental health, and also to recognize that mental health is linked to what my panelists were saying. It's linked to poverty, it's linked to violence, it's linked to employment, it's also linked to other things as well. Then if we look at those things now, they are putting pressure on the youth. At the end of the day, you can see right now in Eswatini about a third of the youth population, either they are not in school, they are not in any form of training, or they don't have employment. And that has been, studies have shown that if you don't have a structured purpose and you have lack of hope, it has been associated with depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues as well. And to further move forward, or to further elaborate to that as well, some of the pressures that we are seeing now, it's a stigma around people living with HIV, and also when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to key populations. Those are some of the pressures that we are seeing as young adults. They are growing up. You need to express yourself. You need to express your sexuality as well. But again, there are gaps in those things. And then lastly, I think what I would add is I think everyone is aware of social media. In as much as it is good, it has also come with certain pressures when it comes to mental health. There is cyberbullying. There is body image issues that are arising now. And then you are also seeing now a trend of curated identities on social media. Those are fueling, or they are feeding into anxiety, depression in the young population as well.
Well, Jennifer, would you want to just continue on what your observations have been?
Okay, to continue off from my fellow panelist, I'm sorry, can you just please repeat the question?
The question is around mental health and the issues that young people are facing. What has been your observation in that space? What are the main issues that you've observed that young people are facing?
Okay. Of course, like my panelists have touched, mental health and poverty, it all goes hand in hand. and also health in general. So of course, if I can't afford basic health, that will affect me mentally. If I can't afford just basics, it can harm me mentally. For instance, let's say as a female, you constantly have to check on yourself. Hygiene is important. And if I can't, that will kill my confidence as well. And if my confidence is killed, now I will start to look for solutions which are not good. Like my fellow panelists touched, the social media. You seeing influencers, which, by the way, most of the time it's not real. But of course, because there's a picture that has been presented to you, you will want to meet a certain standard so that you could fit in, you could be counted as important. So obviously, if you are struggling to even just afford a roll-on, for example, never mind even healthcare, if you can't just afford a roll-on, then that will affect you. Mentally, you start having depression, you start having anxiety also. You start having even thoughts that are not even true about yourself. And that will, beyond just affecting your health, it will, because also your mental health is important in the sense that it starts in the mind and then it goes to the rest of the body. So if you're not okay up here, it will be hard for you to also take care of yourself. Because if you're depressed, for example, you find yourself, you can't even wake up. It's hard for you to even wake up and to seize the day. Because you've just at a point whereby nothing matters. But which is why these engagements are important, because we need to find the solutions to help. Okay, we have Helping Hand foundations. We have these certain foundations whereby you're not alone. You're not alone. We have the help. Sometimes it's even free. Sometimes you can even talk to someone and they can assist you. Yeah.
Just a quick one on that.
Yes.
What's your observations? Are young people coming in? Are they reporting issues around their mental health? What's the culture around seeking assistance?
Okay. One thing I've observed, there are mostly young people who have the confidence, who are confident enough to reach out. But of course, that's not the reality of everyone. Like Zena mentioned earlier, there's always that thought of the stigma, because of course we're not fully educated when it comes to mental health, because sometimes when someone says mental health, we think crazy. You see what I mean? We think you're crazy, so now you'll be stuck with that problem because I'm scared now. On top of everything that I'm facing here by myself, with my thoughts battling. I'm battling my thoughts, I'm battling everything that I'm facing. Now I have to deal with people now judging me, whereas that will not be the case. But the mind is a very powerful organ, and it has a way of just creating a reality that is not even there. So I feel it's important to also bridge that gap as well, to bring more light into mental health so that people understand. If I say I'm depressed, if I say I have anxiety, I'm not necessarily saying I'm crazy. And also by also saying that I'm crazy, I'm not even saying we should also look down on people with certain disabilities as well. Yes, thank you.
If I may just add on that, let's see. I like what my sister is sharing, Jennifer, on the issue of the access. I think young people are different than the older generation. In the older generation, mental health was a bit of a taboo. But with young people, they are a bit more knowledgeable and they even have the language for it. But the issue, I believe, lies in the access of the service. I think as a country, we are really struggling in terms of ensuring that young people have access to adequate mental health care. And I think either it's expensive or it's in isolated certain parts. So not everyone has the access and the equity when it comes to mental health care. But also mental health care that is contextual to us. Because like what she said, there's still that understanding that people don't know when you say you're depressed, when you say you have anxiety. But if we are investing in localizing it, putting it in our own language, and even the solutions to it being a localized solution, structured for our context, because we know that Eswatini is a cultural country, a religious country as well. And those things speak to how people access not just health, but even mental health care. So when we invest in the research, we invest in getting the data to see that even if we can say we're bringing psychologists or therapists in this place, but you might find that the people here don't even believe in going to a psychologist or a therapist when I have issues. They believe in going to the pastor or going to Sangoma, for example. So that's the research that we need to get so that we are able to curate interventions that are specific to those people. So now we bridge the gap between the cultural and the social aspect as well as the medical aspect to ensure that the service is given to the person on the other side.
Thank you so much. I think at this point, we do have young people, like I mentioned. I'd like to throw it to the floor. I'd like to maybe get 3 questions. And we have our presenters with the mics, and I'll open it up for the audience to ask a couple of questions.
Good morning. I am Erica Tala from Gwaliseni. I've heard such an insightful conversation. My question is, well, I'm just throwing this out there honestly, is that we all know the problems. We all see the problems. We all are going through the problems, right? Most young people can't even come because I do not need someone. I can't come to a therapist because I do not need you to tell me to meditate. I need actual help. I were lacking funds. I can't say I'm going to come to a therapist. I don't tell Aguti, oh, you need to be strong. I know I need to be strong. I'm still strong. I'm still going to class. I need actual help. So now it's coming down to the poverty. It's now coming down to the economic crisis. What is being done with that? Not necessarily just, I understand the mental aspect. It's so important. But now also, we are learned students here. We understand that. We understand that aspect. Now we need the actual financial help. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we should have another question.
Hi. My name is Melanie Singetiwe, and my question also falls under mental health. We are students, we are burnt out, and I think when you speak about mental health, people expect to see it, but there are different forms of mental health. There's functional depression, and I think it's something that people need to be aware of, that you could be depressed, but you still have to do the work, right? And especially at uni, I feel as though our lecturers do not necessarily understand. And then my question is that, are you actually planning on educating the older generation, which is our lecturers and maybe the community at large, that we are tired, we are burnt out, and putting mental health days as part of the system, maybe 1 day a month, just to, because the rest is productive too. Like, I can't do anything if I'm burnt out.
Thank you.
Greetings to everyone. My name is Frederick Mhlanga. I'm from UNESCO. My question is based on advocacy, because I believe right there we are all part of the civil society. Part of the job of the civil society is advocacy, real advocacy. So I think there's a confusion between creating awareness and advocating. I believe that when you advocate for something, you are speaking on behalf of, to a certain audience. So how far has the civil society upfront there in terms of advocating for a Maswati to the government, especially on issues of decentralization? Are we really decentralized? If I have to go for dialysis in Babane when I'm coming from Lavomisa, is that really decentralization? And how far have you gone in that advocacy, advocating for policies on behalf of a Maswati as the civil society? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for such wise questions. I think the first one was speaking around the issue of that accessing mental health is not only about, the perception is that we know what the provider will say. They'll tell us to meditate. That's the first one. And then the second contribution we got was that you're looking at it, and Smelane over there at the back was saying that she too is thinking that on the mental health aspect, she too is thinking that let there be some days given and dedicated. And she's also saying we should try mobilize the other generation, the older generation, to actually also be thinking about how and what and how they're walking in their shoes. And the last one is talking about advocacy. I want to start it off this way. I will ask AHF to speak to the advocacy one. What strides, what is happening when it comes to advocacy? And then we'll shift on to talk to the mental health one, and I'll allow you, Jennifer, to talk to the mental health in terms of older people understanding, and then we'll close it off with the last question.
All right, thank you so much, Ngozi, and thank you so much to our audience for such interesting questions. You know, it's interesting that you are raising the issue of advocacy in Eswatini. It's my baby within AHF. Of course, I work with a number of colleagues to try. But my observation, I want to agree with you. Efforts are there, are being made, but I also personally believe it is not enough. Today, we are lacking structures that bring together civil society to discuss the advocacy agenda. Currently, it sits within each organization. For instance, we do not have a consortium in Eswatini that strictly focuses on advocacy issues. And for me, it's one of our bigger agenda within AHF to bring together civil society to discuss. Of course, we've seen forums where other partners bring together stakeholders to discuss the different challenges and how we can advance the challenges that our communities and people that exist within the society are facing in as far as health service provision is concerned. However, I want to be brutally honest here. The political landscape in Eswatini sometimes is not allowing for us to advance these advocacy issues. But all is not lost. Opportunities remain, and I want to then shift my response to youth-led advocacy. It concerns me, and I've seen it happening in other countries. South Africa, for instance, has youth parliament, where young people get together to discuss issues that they are facing. And those issues are taken up to higher parliament to discuss how best government and development partners can assist. We don't have that kind of a platform in Eswatini. And I feel, Nkosi, we need to, as civil society, really take it up and try to strengthen our efforts to ensure that we create platforms. This is one of them, but now it remains with us. Are we going to advance these submissions? Do we know from a structural perspective who we are supposed to speak to next to ensure that changes are being made? The past couple of years, we had issues with menstrual hygiene. We took it up as an advocacy activity. Access to menstrual hygiene. Young people cannot afford sanitary products, sanitary pads. There was a big issue. We needed young people on board. We went out, we got data, and we engaged Parliament. And it takes deliberate action. It takes collective effort. Today, as we are sitting here, 15% was removed from all sanitary products. And that is just to highlight some of the advocacy agendas but it took us almost 2 years, and it was a very lonely journey. However, we are grateful that from an advocacy perspective, we are able to achieve some of these gains. But I just want to emphasize that as young people, please feel free to submit these issues. You know, partners are here. Let us continue to have these kind of platforms where we can engage. But structurally, we also need to see how we can take up these issues that young people are raising. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Mteto. Before I move on, still on the advocacy part, I do want to highlight to young people that there are structures out there. Do be on the lookout as to how to reach out to them. The structures that exist are also there to advance the interests of young people. I'm aware because from a Young Heroes perspective, we do have a partnership with the ENYC, the Youth Council, and there is some work that is happening around that space. So just pay attention towards that space. It might also help in terms of getting services and a representation of young people in terms of advocacy. There's also Kango, who coordinates civil society. They too do sort of try to create some certain platforms. I think what we need to do as civil society is to come together a bit more in terms of partnerships in things that we can actually agree on to advance the interests of young people. But having said that, we'll move on to talk to the mental health pastor soon. Yes, so the question was, is there one, will as a civil society, will we be engaging the older generation in terms of them understanding how young people and what young people are going through? And it's also to say what else can be done around mental health awareness and as to what young people go through. That's where the holiday, the 1 day a month suggestion came up.
That question was actually brilliant, and that suggestion as well, because we need, especially students, they need as much support as they can get, because it's not easy. These people are out here fighting for their lives. They're fighting, they are. They're fighting for their lives. They're fighting to get to a point whereby they can make their living. You can make your choice where I want to go eat out there, I want to be able to change my family's lives. I want to change my life, but beyond that, you have to deal with everyday stresses. And of course, one thing from my experience from varsity, it's very cutthroat, Lecturers are very hard on us. They tell you, you are here being prepared for the real world, so we can't be soft on you. But in reality, we've also seen in the workspace, they do provide mental health classes, maybe not in every health space, but it is an awareness that is given. So if you're saying you're preparing students for the real world, obviously you have to also touch on the mental health part, so a break is needed. You can't be on full overdrive all the time, then you will burn out. And if you burn out, then you can't function at your best, obviously. So I feel it is important to educate the older generation, of course, because in as much as we've probably all passed through the varsity, the school, the teenage stage, obviously you become out of touch the older you get. So it's hard to really relate when a young person comes to you with a certain problem, So it's important then to keep ourselves educated and to get ourselves at a point whereby we can relate and understand each other. And in that way, we will be able to offer solutions whereby the varsity, the educating experience is not such a horrible one that by the time you get out, you're like, thank goodness. But you're at a point whereby you are able to even encourage those who are coming after you and to bring even more solutions. And also, I want to add that in as much as we are all here, it's also up to you guys to also come up with solutions, because at the end of the day, you are the future, you are tomorrow. We are going out of the game at some point, so you have to then take over. And then with the issues that you are seeing, you need to already be starting to implement, see what can we do, you know, with the tools that are available, with the foundations. You can also start your own foundation, you know, do the work, put in the footwork, you know. It shouldn't just be on us only. You also should take the responsibility to change your situation so that it's better for those who are also coming after you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Doc, quickly, just on which was the first question that we got. What's happening on the provider side? Why are we telling people to go meditate? What's happening here?
Thank you so much. I think my sister raised an important question to say, yes, we know mental health, we are being told to do this, but there are primaries, there are fundamentals that needs to be addressed. So I think to Zanele's point, when it comes to health, it's a multi-sectorial discipline. Political will is needed, healthcare is needed, the economy has to be in a position to support the youth. Again, it speaks to we need political will that will support the youth in terms of making sure that there is employment, making sure that there are training, vocational schools that are made available, not just a training school, but making sure that those that cannot afford, they have a facility to make sure that they can go through trainings. Again, I think you know in other institutions, there are student loans, student grants that are given to support those that are in the process to getting an education. At the end of the day, those are some of the systems that we would like to encourage the government to use. Because again, once you guys are educated, it's education for the country as well. You are going to be employed in the country, so the country is going to benefit at the end of the day. So there is need for political will. There is also need to provide an economy that once you guys are done with your school, you can actually go to work, earn a living, support a family. Once those things are in place, I'm sure when you then go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they tell you to meditate. I think it can land better. Then I think another thing to add as well, I think we need to understand that mental health is huge, is broad. I understand our understanding of it might be limited because there is an information gap, there is a knowledge gap when it comes to mental health. And right now, WHO is raised as a crisis. Because right now we are seeing a rise in the suicides attempts that are happening. We are seeing a rise in drug abuse. Those are just symptoms. They show you that mental health has not been addressed and has not been addressed for quite some time, right? So looking at that now, we need to make sure that the environment that we are in, we get the support from the government, we get support from the politics, then we also get to understand, okay, mental health has much more to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Let's just move on a bit. There are some couple of questions we still have that we'll make a discussion on, and then we'll later on speak to the audience again. So thank you so much for those questions once again. Zenan, can I just come to you? I want to talk about sexual reproductive health issues. And one of the main questions that I have, not only let's just open it up. Let's not only say sexual reproductive health. I want to ask, what is it that can be done that can make services more youth-friendly? What are the things that need to be put in place to get to that point?
I think, like I'd highlighted before, there's already certain standards, the national standards that the country has aligned to when it comes to the provision of adolescent and youth-friendly health services. But in terms of addressing the gaps that are there, firstly, the whole digital aspect of it, I think we can do better in leveraging on that, in ensuring that the services are available for young people on a digital platform, because I think that will then reduce the whole notion of stigma having to then physically go into the healthcare center. And I know that there have been efforts around that. I think as UNFPA we do have an online digital platform called Tune Me that we are working on with the Eswatini National Youth Council. that also provides the information. So for there, it's just the information to the young people, but it hasn't moved to the level of ensuring that they get the service. So I think as a country, we can leverage a lot on the digital use when we speak to access to SRHR services for young people. And then in terms of the friendliness of our services, of our healthcare centers, that will speak to, like I mentioned earlier, we do have the healthcare workers who are trained on providing youth-friendly health services, who are taken through the capacitation process. But as we know, it changes, right? Right now, I think we've had a number of nurses who've gone to the UK. So that means new nurses are coming in, and that means retraining. So that requires more resources, so a reinvestment. So it's an ongoing process. We can't say if we've trained nurses today, then we don't need to train nurses again in 3 years' time. And another one that I think is important is also when we speak to youth-friendly health services, I think the issue of inclusion, when we speak about persons living with disabilities, for example, are they able to access the services? Making sure when they go to the clinic, do they have the braille, for example, for those with vision impairment? For those who have hearing impairment, do they have the healthcare workers who can sign, for example? So those are the things that I think we still have an opportunity to do better on as a country when it comes to making our services more youth-friendly. And also even just the way the innovative aspect of it. And I think this speaks to what Tulani highlighted when we include young people in the process, because we're able to come up with innovative ways on how to send the message across in a way that will be acceptable to the young person, but also in a creative way. So I think we do have a room as well to also work with young people in making our healthcare services youth-friendly as well, to ensure that, for example, the creativity, when I enter into the clinic, is it accepting? Do I feel like, oh, I belong here, or no? Or do I still feel like they are questioning me because I'm wearing a miniskirt, for example, or I have a nose piercing, in a way that the nurse is like, ma'am, So all of those things, they speak into how we make our institutions a bit more youth-friendly.
All right, thank you so much. I'll shift over to you, Samteto. Now, young people are so vulnerable to HIV infections. And you look at it and although you're exposing your age earlier on, you gave us a history of how HIV response has evolved in the country. But we still have this problem. The young people are still vulnerable. We roll out a project that focuses on adolescent girls and young women as young heroes, and we see some of these things creeping up, and you see the incidence rate, the things happening with new infections cropping up here and there. Why are young people still vulnerable to HIV infection this day and age?
Thank you, Nkosi. I think it's an interesting one. Perhaps I can begin by highlighting that these new infections are not necessarily because of individual behavior per se. There are so many other underlying factors that contribute to that. Young people remain susceptible to poverty and economic vulnerabilities. And until we address those underlying factors, we may not be able to sustain the gains that we have done, and we may also not be able to prevent new HIV infections. We continue to see intergenerational relationships as a result of poverty. We continue to see transactional relationships, These are the kind of engagements that make young people vulnerable. I always give an example. If an older man like me can date a younger girl, I provide the money, I pick you up in my fancy BMW, I pay in a hotel. It is no-brainer that when it comes to the sexual intercourse, this young person has no power to detect how that, sexual intercourse is going to take place. they have no power to negotiate for safe sex practices because they remain vulnerable. So we need to address those issues. We also have issues around school dropouts. Young people that are not in school are idly and remain vulnerable. How do we address those issues? Because these are the issues that then make them vulnerable, and that is what subsequently causes the new HIV infections. And then, of course, I also want to speak to access to information, accurate information. Some young people do not have accurate information, especially in rural areas. You know, there's still a gap. We need to strengthen on ensuring that they have correct information around that. But essentially, I think we just need to see how we best address economic vulnerabilities. Let's try and have a collective effort, you know, to see how we can best assist. Health services alone are not going to reduce new HIV infections. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mteto. I'll move on straight to you, Jennifer. I've got a question here. I'd like to ask it as it is. So, how are issues such as relationships, sexuality, body image, and reproductive choices affecting adolescents? What is happening within that?
Like my fellow panelists have touched, misinformation is one. And also in adolescence, there's a lot of peer pressure. That is another one. Because in as much as you could be educated, you could be well aware, there's also the part of wanting to fit in as much as we could say that's unrealistic, but it's the fact of it. In as much as we could have all the excess, there's also that part of wanting to fit in, wanting to be a part of the cool crowd. And unfortunately, in this time, in this day and age, bad behavior precedes more the good behavior. Now you have to be turned up, there's talks of body counts, there's, you know, so everyone is competing to shine in those areas. Yet, now that is, there's deeper issues. We forget that there's consequences that come with those practices, you know, HIV, you know, sexual reproductive health, you know, because, you know, once you expose your body to someone, you are fully vulnerable in that state. Because you we all dressed up, but once you expose your body to someone else, you are now vulnerable, and now you expect certain treatment from that certain person because you gave up a huge part of yourself. And most of the time, you find that the person is not even there, and that affects your mental health, you know. So, yeah.
Thank you. Earlier on, I asked a question to UNFPA. I asked about how best can we make youth-friendly services. How can, and you came up with a lot of suggestions which are quite interesting. I like the part whereby you mentioned that let's involve the youth in this. But then there's the training part that we spoke about. We spoke about that we have a high turnover in terms of our healthcare providers. Now you need to train. So I just had a follow-up question to that. Why isn't that we put it in institutions, that the trainings are done in school rather than in service? What can be done around that space that allows that every time a healthcare provider comes out, there's somebody who already is aware of healthcare, of youth-friendly services?
Thank you, Mlitis. I think it is something that is ongoing in the in-service training as well, but obviously there's always room to do better, like I say, and it all boils down to resources, resources that are available to ensure that all of these services are available, both in service and in post-service when the healthcare worker is now stationed at the health institution. So it's a matter of resources, it's a matter of investment, it's a matter of prioritization as well, from as a government as well as the development partners to see if this is something that we say is a priority, then how are we ensuring that we're investing into that. But I wanted to just, now that you've given me the platform, to just add on something that Tulani touched on when responding to the question around advocacy. I think a young man asked around what we're doing in terms of advocating for the issues that we're speaking about now. And I just wanted to highlight that, what I've learned with advocacy is that it's not you advocate for a matter today and then you'll see the result tomorrow. Like he mentioned with the whole issue of menstrual health management, sometimes it can take years to advocate for an issue and you only see the change maybe 5 years down the line. But it's through the work that has been done by people who have come before us. I mean, now when in each of the different sectors that we work on, there are things that people started advocating for maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, where now we're seeing the move in the policies that are being enacted, the move in the regulations that are put in place. And I think as a young person, it can get discouraging if there's a burning issue that you're seeing in society that you want to address, but it's like it's taking time. And I think that's the nature of development work. It's the reality that I've also had to face in a lot of the work that we do, is that some issues take time to work the ground to get to the point where it's like, finally, now it has happened. And I think a lot of us and our fans will agree with that, because it took them time to be the winners. But it takes time. Some investments take time. Some advocacy takes time. It's not as easier with other issues than others. Some issues, it takes a lot of political will, a lot of convincing, from this parliament to the next, until that one that actually then moves the needle. But I think one thing that we then need to do on our side is just not give up, because the AHF will do the work, and then UNFPA will come and do on top of that. Someone will build on top of that. It then speaks to the need to collaborate, to work together, to partner, to say, you have moved the needle this far, I come and I move it a further direction until we get the end result that we want. It can be discouraging, but you just then need to, you let the passion or the end result be the one that drives you to see what you want to see on the other side.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we've heard more or less what the picture is. We've been speaking about maybe 3 big ball areas: mental health. We're also speaking about sexual reproductive health as well as HIV. I want to open it up to the floor again to say, what are the solutions? Not more about questions, but what are the solutions? Zenan, my colleague here, was talking about involving the youth to say, if you guys design your own solutions, then there must be a way that we'll be making more impact. So I'd like to open it up to the floor for anybody who has solutions to some of the problems. There's a hand over there. The presenters will help with the rolling mic.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Good morning. My name is Nogunga Damieni. I am a founder and lead consultant at Lusito Wellness and Counseling. By training, I'm a psychologist. So I'm here and I'm catching strays because people are saying, oh, psychologists are going to tell us to meditate, they're going to tell us to, forgive ourselves and all of that. So I'm just standing in to defend my profession, hey? And also, of course, to bring more solutions to the conversations around mental health. I was quite happy to see the conversation on health did steer towards mental health, because no conversation on health is complete without involving mental health. And I think I was also happy to hear a comment raised about the role of geopolitics, or rather local politics and economic factors, how they factor into the access and distribution of healthcare services, and in particular mental health. We're at a time where we can no longer afford to hide behind the leaf of stigma to say, oh, we're unable to disperse mental health services because the stigma around it. Now it's time to find solutions around it. And we have seen in past programs that are centered around healthcare, especially where mental health, rather a Ministry of Health is concerned. There are programs that are run that then influence the policy development of certain health. For example, we had a program malaria a few years ago because there's a problem with malaria, and then to that the response was to establish a program that is going to directly touch on that issue. And I think it's about time that we have a program that will be established to address in particular mental health, so that over time we can have a mental health policy, because we have a real problem in our hands, a real crisis whereby we have fewer people accessing mental health services. But in that, we've got less men accessing that. And we can see the results of that in the number of suicide cases that are reported in the country, that about 85% of successful suicides are committed by men. So we need to have targeted interventions that will target not just mental health as a collective for everybody, but in particular for men. So now, I think we need to start looking up towards how do you package mental health into the basic healthcare provision. Is it really time that we can say Eswatini is now moving towards integrating mental health services into primary healthcare, so that it's no longer treated as an issue, as a secondary issue? Mental health is no longer a luxury. Accessing mental health is not supposed to be seen as a secondary issue. Or because it doesn't kill me, because I can leave to fight another day with my headache, or with the fact that I haven't been able to sleep for a few days, I can live on, and the fact that scars in mental health are not visible. That doesn't mean these issues should remain in the big shadows like they have been for a long time. So we definitely need to have, there's an actual need for deliberate and intentional efforts towards making sure we package mental health services into basic healthcare.
Thank you. Let's get another hand.
Hello. My name is Notando McDonald. I am a volunteer at World Vision. I'm a TOIF at UNESCO. So I do the HIV prevention sessions with the students. And what I have discovered is the accessibility part is very tricky. For example, a couple of weeks or just in between, students would come to me and say, you know what, I need PEP right now. I'm like, go to Kagaz. I'll be like, no, I have a test. You understand? So now the person needs the PEP, but then she has or he has a test in the next 30 minutes or so. And then after the test, in a class. After the class, there's another class. After that, so tiniwe or sokuvaliwe eKhakaza, for example. You understand? So I feel like as organizations, as stakeholders, if you guys could collaborate with the university, because you cannot put the resources that they need at the school campus, clinic, the campus clinic, because they don't really go there. They go there if maybe they have a headache or something simple. If it's sexual reproduction, it's a bit tricky, you know. So you as AHF come to the university. Certainly you could see maybe once a week or twice a week, guna AHF, guna helping hand, anyone that has to come, so that you kind of have hear the students out. You understand? Because yes, you have given us the platform. Would say we should teach them about the HIV. They come to the sessions and they learn a lot of things. That's the other thing. There's a lot of misinformation. Normally they go by word of mouth, you know. Bona, they go there to learn about whatever they are learning, their English or whatever. And then if it comes to maybe PrEP, if atsumgani ekse umjovo ukrend, no, uthi dumgani ukrend. So lokunye sengivele ngithethe. Yabo, even if agasho uthi no ukrendi for my body. For your body, we don't know, but you can try it out, you know. Agamnigeti all the other information, you understand? So what I would suggest is collaborate more with the institutions as well. you know, so that the students will have easy access. Because you talked about saying, you said access to the rural. As much as Balakasi in town, close to most of the thing, they're far. They're far if this person doesn't have that 20 minutes to go to Mahala or to Matapadi by the farm to access, you see. So
All right.
bring them a bit closer.
Yep. Can we move on? Yeah, just because.
We also have our third and final question from, remember we do have an online audience, so we'd also like to include them. I don't know who this is directed to, but amongst the panelists, I'm sure we'll find someone to respond to it. It says, I would like to ask the panel that since structural poverty and localized information gaps in rural areas directly fuel transactional relationships and completely strip young people of their negotiating power regarding safe sex, what cross-sector interventions are being prioritized to merge economic youth and empowerment with rural sexual and reproductive health distribution? I think maybe AHF can take that.
So quickly, can we respond to that one very, very quickly?
Okay, I want to start in the interest of time to weigh in on what Notando was saying. You know, just to assure students, particularly within Matapa, that we are trying so hard to make service access flexible. You know, Kagaza, I know since it's now under HF, it's going to be having extended hours, you know, closing late into the night. But we've also reached out to Eswatini Higher Education Council as they are developing their guidelines for tertiary institutions to say, look, have it within the guidelines that access to health services within the campuses is as flexible and as accommodating for our students. You know, so we are hoping for better days, and we really do take that recommendation. And we are going to be coming with mobile clinics to the institutions. Even though I've had a concern, Ngozi, that around issues of stigma and discrimination, is it easy for you guys to access services within a mobile clinic that's parked within the campus? Is that a solution? Yeah. That's a question thrown back to them. And then in terms of the structural barriers, I think this is work in progress. Yeah. You know, I did mention that data really gives us the guide in terms of where we need to focus our interventions, really, because until we identify the gap, then we are not able. But it is really going to take collective effort. We've seen so many changes even within the financial landscape. Right now we are saying, can we bring in private sector to assist in terms of advancing health service provision? It's no longer a health sector issue. You know, we've also had over-reliance on donor funding. When the donor leaves, you know, human resource reduces. Financing for commodities reduces. So we are back at the drawing board. We are saying, can everyone come on board? Private sector, health sector, education sector, because we know that young people are harbored by schools within the rural areas.
Thank you, Nyambos. Doc, can you quickly also speak to that the last online question?
Okay, thank you so much. I think, it is, addressing poverty is a challenge in Africa. Yeah. I think, it's something that needs, one, political will again. It needs multi-sectorial approach to make sure that all the entities that are involved in making sure that we uplift the life of every Maswati is involved, is willing to put in the fight to make sure that at the end of the day, our poverty, everyone who is living under the poverty bottom line is uplifted. So I think it's something that is in process. I think we can see the government trying to come up with initiative through the Office of the Deputy Prime Minister So those are some of the things that are social grants that are there, that are available. I think making sure that there is employment out there, there is decentralization of the economy as well. I think that is something that is important to make sure that you don't hear of economic hubs only in Babane and Matapa. It needs to be decentralized. Go to the rural areas. Each rural setting, each district or each region needs to have its own economic hub to make sure that a lot of the people that are there find jobs, they find something meaningful to do, and even training. Our training institutions should not only be located in the urban areas. We need training institutions in the rural areas that I can get my education from grade 1 to form 5. I can go to vocational school in my rural area. Those are some of the things that will help us address the issue of poverty. Once we address that, then we fix a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Colleagues, I think, let me just ask this one last question about the digital space. In our discussion, we barely mentioned it. We mentioned it when we were speaking about ChuneMe, and we're also speaking about what's happening at social media levels. So I just, in 30 seconds, Jennifer, I'll go straight to you. What best intervention can we bring for young people that's digital? What is there that can happen that would allow them to maybe address some of the barriers that we've had in the digital space?
I think we could continue with the live dialogues. I think this should be a normal practice. That is one, whereby we engage with the youth, they express their issues and also share solutions, and which will also help us as well as professionals to be able to introduce new mandates and new programs as well that will help and assist in curbing the gaps that are there in society and also in the youth, and also to empower them as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was 30 seconds. So colleagues, I think for now, let us say our closing words, and this we too should keep it short to a minute. I'm giving you 60 seconds each to just close it off and say, what have we rethought when it comes to health equity in Eswatini? I'll start off from my far right again.
Thank you, Nkosi. I think mine is just to appreciate this moment and the interesting discussions that we've had. And my parting words would be, I think Jennifer has already said what I thought perhaps I would say as my parting words. This should be the beginning of many interactions that we are having, because until we know what problems exist within the targeted populations that we are dealing with, it's going to be challenging to address them. Also, the issue of involvement. We need to involve the various groups that exist in society so that we are able to create interventions that meet their needs within the health space. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Thank you, Nkosi. I would just like to thank everyone who made their time to come here, and also the audience, the viewers at home who also took their time to interact with us. In closing, I would just like to also again emphasize on the point that as the youth, you are the future. It's up to you also, in as much as we are the drivers, but you also are the drivers. It's not just on us as well. It's up to you also to, because I believe no one can get to varsity level and be dumb. You are all intelligent. So utilize your intelligence to come up with the solutions and join in with us, and together we can make Eswatini greater beyond what it is already now, so that even the generation coming after us, they find us striving. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Doc.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I think I appreciate the opportunity, the conversations. I think they were stimulating, and I think we'll get solutions from this. I think I will just touch on 3 basic issues, then I will finish. The first one is, what is encouraging is you guys have grown up in a digital age. So I think we need to leverage that when it comes to mental health. There are applications, there are systems that are there to assist you with mental health. I do understand that about 75 to 77% of our population is living in rural areas, but we do have mechanism to reach them. Those are SMSs. At the Law Commission, we have a system called Luvelo. It's a mobile-first application, and it uses low bandwidth, which means you can access most of it in the rural areas. You can access it offline. So those are some of the things that we need to utilize. The solutions are within Eswatini. They are not outside, just thinking outside the box and leveraging those. And I think my last point would be to say health equity is not a destination. It is a daily act of political will, community solidarity, and structural investment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doc. Zenani?
Thank you so much. This has been a great chat. I think I really enjoyed the questions that we got from our audience as well. And I want to write on to what the doctor has said in saying that health equity is not a destination. I think as a country, there's room for us to do more in terms of ensuring that we rethink the equity story. We need to be able to see who still feels unseen, who's still not able to get the services that they need, who is still left behind, and begin to address those things, especially considering persons living with disabilities, the key population, considering the vulnerable population as well, the women, the children, even the elderly. So I think we still have room to do a lot, and like the doctor said, a lot of it calls for the political will, the prioritization and the correct investment, but more than anything, the collaboration. I think Tulani touched on the fact that right now we've seen with what has happened with the stop work order, a lot of the work that we had been doing, the work that had been on the ground by a lot of our CSOs, even with a lot of the development partners that we had, all of that has been put to a halt, and that takes us back quite a lot with the ground that we had covered, not just in HIV, but even in mental health and a lot of other sectors that are in the health sector. So there's a huge need for us to now come together and actually say, how can we rethink this in a way that works for our country? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, panelists, and from me as well, thank you so much to the audience at home, to also the audience here. I think we heard a lot about collaboration, a lot about committing to work together to get more solutions. Having said that, thank you so much. I'm going to take this back to the presenters, and I hope this was the start of many other dialogues to come.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to our moderator, the panelists, the partners, and most importantly, the live audience, which are the students. Can you please give yourselves a big, big round of applause? Sia, I'd just like to mention, a special thank you. I know that I've already said thank you, but I will be thanking again our partners today, which was the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, the United Nations Population Fund, EquiCare Partner Network, Young Heroes, Helping Hands, and of course, Eswatini Gender Minorities.
Absolutely, Bello. That was a very impactful and insightful conversation indeed. It's also good to hear solutions coming from the young people themselves.
Yeah.
And as Urban Poet says it himself, it takes the wisdom of the elderly and the young people's energy to bring the change.
All right, Sia. Today we're signing out in a different way. You know that the MTN Bushfire is all about bringing your fire. So I will ask our audience to give me a big bring your fire as we sign out on Eswatini TV, but are continuing the broadcast live. So if you're joining us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, please do stay tuned, because this is the part where we reach our giveaway. So I hope you were listening attentively. Our live audience, we have 4 tickets to give away. I think they're paired with something else, because we did see yesterday it's not just only a ticket, it's more than that. So in 3, I'll ask you to say, bring your fire. So let's count them down, Sia.
Oh yeah, in
3, 2, 1.
Indeed.
Beautiful.
They definitely brought their fire. And ladies and gentlemen, as you will remember, this conversation reminds us that every young person has the power to become the change maker within their community. And through awareness, advocacy, compassion, and action, we continue bringing the fire.
Indeed, Sia, thank you so much for joining us. If you were joining us on Eswatini TV, but we are continuing the conversation, Sia, like we had already mentioned. I will now give Bongi the opportunity to work her magic. We do have our panelists on stage. I hope they are, can you hold it in for 20 more minutes or like 10 more minutes as we do the giveaway? Those are the judges. The first answer, you answer only once, Sia. You get to answer once.
Hands.
The quickest hand
up.
Is who we pick. So if you're at the back, sometimes akbonagali, but we will try and work with the crowd. No, we will try and work with the crowds. Guys, please do remember that we're still live, so please keep the noise level down. We will try and work with all three crowds. We will be picking someone from all three crowds. You get to answer once. And if that is wrong, we're moving on to the next person. My judges are on stage. They will determine if you're going through to the festival with us or you're staying at home. So yeah, Bongi, can I hand it over to you?
Thank you very much, Tapelo. Thank you to my university students for attending. As always, it is a pleasure to see the youth bring their fire into the festival and to be reminded that this festival is not just about the music. In the Bring Your Fire zone is where we do our call to action. So it is wonderful, and thank you again to the university and the university students for supporting us. Mine is very simple. I want to know who has been paying attention to today's dialogues. I have four main arena tickets to give away, full festival. And then with those arena tickets, full festival means you start Friday, you leave Sunday. Okay? And with that, I'm also giving away, so that's this year is combined with 150 MTN Lula combo. Remember the Lula combo? You've got voice, you've got data, so that you can stay connected throughout the festival. So, I'm going to ask Tapelo and our moderators, panelists and moderators, I'm going to ask some questions that were based on what has been discussed today. Okay? And, yeah, so please help us identify which is the first hand that went up. All right. So, my first question. When we are talking about healthcare access, what was described as being needed? Yeah?
Questions again. The most discussed thing was collaboration and also providing services to everyone, regardless of geographical location. Thanks.
How do my panelists feel? I'm a bit iffy. I'm looking for one. Yes, he said many things. I'm looking for there was one word that kept coming up over and over again.
Okay. So can we start afresh? We
Hands
saw
down.
someone. We have someone. Okay, we do have someone in the crowd. Okay. Yeah.
It is someone students.
Equity.
No. Huh? Okay. So let me put your hands down. Let me help you. Put your hands down. Let me help you. Let me help you here. Put them down. Put your hands down. Let me help you. Every single one of our panelists, moderators, everyone on the floor, continuously there is one word that kept coming up. They kept saying health access should be treated as. What does it need? When we talk about health access, what does it actually need?
Please give the lady in the jean jacket closest to the wall.
Oh, there you are.
Guys, please make sure that you raise your hand. What do you do?
Health equity.
Oh, okay, no. Okay. Okay,
Guys,
can I?
should I?
Wait. At the back. Sia, the guy with the shirt at the back.
My panelists are telling us this, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Health access should be treated as, healthcare access should be treated.
Multi-sectoral.
Thank you very much. Please can you give us your name? Thank you very much. That goes to our first winner. See me after, please do not leave. Come and register, congratulations. Okay, calm down, calm down. Silence,
Can we
please.
please have some silence?
What are the names of the two partners who represented very strongly youth in SRHR services? Give me two names right now. There's two organizations. Yes.
UNFPA and AHF.
No. Next. The name of the two organizations that focus strongly on SRH services.
It's UNFPA and Helping Hand Foundation.
Congratulations, you've just won yourself a ticket. Come on, ladies. Come on, ladies.
Yeah.
Come on, ladies. No
The
matter
girls are losing.
Come on, ladies. Maybe we're not seeing them.
What's happening with you?
I'll be looking at the ladies. It's okay. I'll be looking at the ladies.
In advocacy, yes. Can we have a help band? Like equity, equality. In advocacy, one of our panelists mentioned that there were there's two possibilities, and so he gave us two examples. What were the two examples that were given for advocacy? Very specific names. In advocacy, we had one of our panelists was speaking about the advocacy, right? You can't cheat and look at your phones, please, guys. I want to see if you're listening. Yeah, no, I'm talking about they're trying to go back onto the stream. I need to see if you're listening. They spoke about advocacy, and they gave you two examples of what is possible in advocacy space in Eswatini.
Okay, we have a lady at the back. At the back.
Like the lady in back, yeah.
You have time to think while he's walking.
Or you can
have
shout
a lot
before you
of
forget.
time to think. It better be right. It better be right.
We have youth-led advocacy, where there is youth parliament, and then the issues are taken to higher parliament. And then we have organizations like ENYC or Kango. He said that.
No, I had two examples. You've just given me three. So here's a young lady here. But congratulations, she came close. I'll give her a bonus Lula combo.
Okay.
Okay, see me for your bonus Lula combo. It's two specific names.
It is in advocacy. They say that.
In the advocacy space, two specific examples were given.
It's the youth parliament, yes, and the.
Okay, I need to move on to the next one.
Ngiyabona ukuthi youngster ngidambona.
Ndandikhumbuta bekukhuluma AHF. Sengiyanikudluta nje. Bekhuluma AHF uthi there's two possible solutions. Masikhuluma nge-advocacy.
Yes, are we naming the organizations or are we naming the pathways to advocacy?
The pathways to advocacy.
Well, I think the first one, he spoke about a 15% reduction in the prices of sanitary pads.
No, you're already offline.
Okay.
Hey.
Two, guys.
Hey.
Two.
Hey.
And just to give you a clue, there was an answer that was coming up from there that was warming up.
I think if you guys fail, we're giving it to that one that tried up there.
Yeah,
so continue failing.
Yeah, this is go ahead. See, where's the mic? Okay, sure.
Youth parliamentary advocacy and organizational advocacy.
No, there's a technical word that she used. Okay, so we're going to give it to Tapelo. Can we agree?
Well done.
Congratulations, because she started. So AHF spoke about 2 modalities. The youth parliament, he gave you an example of youth parliament, and then he said they need to create a consortium. That's the word I was looking for.
Consortium.
They need to create a consortium. And Gamu, if you... No, he used the word consortium.
Is it
Actually,
fair?
he did. He did. AHF, did you use the word consortium?
Absolutely, I did. It's one of the glaring gaps that we have.
No, he said, so my students here, and apparently Botin Baba Funzisa are debating very well. He said there are 2, he said there is no consortium, we need to create a consortium.
Congratulations, consortium.
Please see me. That was question number 2. Gosh, there's 3. Okay, my last question.
This is the last chance. And
This is my last question. This one is very, very easy. This is going to be very easy. Okay, so because she has received the full ticket plus the combo, yeah, I've got one more combo, just a bonus easy question at the end. But for the last MTN Bushfire Full Festival Access ticket, main arena, which comes with 150 Lula combo, which organization was mentioned as having named mental health as a crisis? This is easy.
Shame it was you.
Congratulations.
Okay. Thank you so much. Can you please give them a big round of applause? Yes.
Thank you very much. Clearly people were listening. If you can see, some of the questions were from the panel, some of the questions from the discussions and the Q&A. And just one last one. This is an easy one, guys. So this is my bonus, my 150 Lula combo. Please do see me right after, so that we can make sure that, though to my winners, that they've tidied up, okay? Which government organization was mentioned as working with civil society and youth?
Is it Congo?
Nope. Government youth organization. I'm giving them clues. I mean, really.
You ready? He has a ticket.
It was only once. This is a bonus, 150. 150 Lula combo, last going once. Please.
Thank you. Young Heroes.
No. Young Heroes is a civil society organization. There's a young lady here.
150.
ENYC.
Congratulations, you just got yourself 150 Lula combo. Thank you very much, Bello. Well done.
All righty. Thank you so much. Can you please give yourselves a big, big round of applause? What a wonderful session. Thank you so much to our moderator for carrying the conversation for at least about 2 hours. I know that wasn't easy. And thank you so much to our panelists for speaking so passionately, to our solution makers. Thank you so much to you, the live audience. Can you please give yourselves a big, 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 big round of applause? Okay, there is another interesting part. You didn't get a ticket, but you will get food. Please stay seated as we organize. Sibonge organizes something for all of you present here. We ask that the winners only come and see us to register for their MTN Bushfire Festival tickets. Yes. And thank you so much to our online audience. There will be a competition, I believe, that will be separate to this one for our online audience for their tickets. But thank you so much to everyone. That is us closing off the production and, continuing with the order of the day. Thank you so much.